Well, it's a very, very good morning, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Sun is shining over the Nürburgring. This is the third round of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. It's the third of the endurance rounds. We started at Paul Ricard, the 24 hours of Spa-Francorchamps, and this is the third showing for the three driver lineups, John Watson.
And what a difference the 24 hours makes here at Nürburgring, the circuit, the racetrack itself. Well, you can see a little bit of haziness hanging around, 13 Celsius on ambient and track. So a little bit cooler than we've seen so far throughout Saturday. It's only going to get better. We understand the weather's going to clear up. This racetrack will go full dry. What's interesting to see actually in those drone shots is just where the circuit has been resurfaced. So coming out of turn one, there's clearly a bit of resurfacing has been done there. Maybe that explains some of the difficulty drivers were faced with in those wet conditions yesterday. Coming into turn one, taking a variety of entries and also then of exits, but the transition out of one into two caught out a number of driver car combinations. But there's still a little element of dampness around on the racetrack, but once all 50 cars get out onto the track, even though these are 15-minute qualifying segments, hopefully we'll get a dry line appearing very quickly.
Car that was fastest yesterday was SRO Motorsports BMW M4 GT3. Toby Sowry, driver who commutes all around the world for his racing, got the job done. But that was a case of who was quickest on their first flying lap, because then the weather got worse through the course of the pre-qualifying session. But now almost all of that data is out the window. We've got dry track, as they did on Friday afternoon in the test. But let's see how it unwinds. We've got three qualifying sessions. Each of them are 15 minutes long, with only 7-8 minutes between them. It's very, very quick fire to get to the end goal, which is that aggregate qualifying time.
Well, I suspect having what we saw yesterday certainly would have put a number of cars out of what we would consider to be their regular start positions. But that's all in the past. We've got a totally different day here at Nürburgring, and we've got a virtually dry circuit all the way around. So it's going to be more or less, I would suspect, the usual suspects forming up at the front of the grid and the usual suspects in the middle and the ones that are at the tail of the field. And of course, at Nürburgring, we've seen in previous visits here that being at the front really makes a big, big difference, because with such a large field, if you're a midfielder to the back of the field, it takes a long time for that group of cars to sort of settle down and then allow you to go about your business of trying to overtake the car directly ahead of you.
Well, just a packed field of 50 cars, a tenth of a second here or there. The difference between a little slip-up could put you 2-3 rows further back. Looking at the array of cars, we've just seen the 007 Aston Martin, the one that took victory at the death in Spa-Francorchamps on the 24 hours. This is the car that was denied victory by the AF Corsa 51 Ferrari by a car being blocking the pit entrance. So this is going to be a real case of vengeance for the gang aboard that. But the McLaren's in the mix as well. And look, there's so much brightness, actually light glaring off the windows, off the pit buildings. It's a bright morning. It's a perfect morning. Lion Speed GP, keen to get out into the action. Their car is lined up at the end of the pit lane, ready to go.
Just we got a glimpse of the 51 AF Corsa Francorchamps Motors, just to give it its full title. And it is the Ferrari 296 GT3 to give the car its full title. And that is a stellar lineup of drivers with Alessandro Rivera, Davide Rigo and Alessandro Pierguidi. And it was Pierguidi who was behind the wheel of the Ferrari when it came into the pits to make its final pit stop. But anyway, that's over a month ago now. And we're looking here at the 32 BMW, the WRT BMW entry there. Now Benjamin Goethe in the 159 Garage. 59 entry, that's the pro entry of the three entries at Garage 59 are here this weekend.
Yeah, that was in among the top 10 yesterday. Benji Goethe getting better and better, and the Gulf livery looking absolutely very fine indeed. But so much better. Yesterday we had rain, we had very, very thick mist. It rose and it fell. But now the track, it's going to be a little bit, as John pointed out, it's only 13.5 degrees track temperature. So that the drivers in this first session, there has been one session for other cars beforehand, is still going to be really rather slippery. But Raffaele Marcello is the driver who's nominated to be driver one, therefore doing qualifying session at number one. He's in the number 46 Team WRT BMW, but without any wheels on the rear end of that car. He's not going anywhere just yet. The session will start, actually, I think we're about to be underway. Yes, 20 seconds in. So I presume the Lion Speed car with Michael Verhagen, Dutch racer sitting in that Porsche, will be the first car out onto the track.
Well, he was at the end of the pit lane, and he appears not to be. Well, there he is, out on track. So the first car out coming through turns 2, 3. And this is the transition from 3. You try to straight line as best as possible, but turn 4 has been the scene of innumerable driver, not penalties, but warnings. And you get up to 5 penalty warnings, and then you can suffer a time penalty thereafter. David Pittard's going to go out on the Valken horse, Aston Martin. So that'll be an interesting combination to see. But it's actually the uptake to get onto the racetrack is rather lethargic.
It certainly is. I mean, we saw that shot of Raffaele Marcello's team WRT BMW without wheels. Likewise, the number 2 Get Speed Mercedes waiting. You know what? It's 15 minutes. They need really to do an outlap, a flying lap, and then take the checkered flag. So for people like Michael Verhagen, who's out on the track, he's got less experience in this championship, so he might as well go and grab the track when it's clear.
One of the benefits of the running yesterday was that the teams probably were able to hold back more sets of their Pirelli tyres, so they may be able to run new tyres for all 3 drivers. And of course, we know that if any race tyre which is brand new, it's the out lap, then the first flying lap that should give you the opportunity to get your best time in. Sometimes a second flying lap can be good enough. It depends whether you meet traffic. But the fact that really only so few cars have actually left the pit lane to go out and establish a time is, I'm surprised that not more are going out. So I think the thinking behind most teams is go out, do your out lap, 1 flying lap, nail it, and come back in again. But that's easier said than done.
Okay, the lap record around here is 1 minute, just under 1 minute 56 seconds. We've already had cars going just a little bit faster in practice, but of course lap records only in races. But for Michael Verhagen, for Lion Speed GP, it's Patrick Kolb's team. He's got the track to himself, doesn't want to be interrupted. He didn't want all the other cars coming out on their out lap when he was in his first flyer.
And there you can see the difference. Oh, and that's the problem that we've seen in that sector coming out of turn 1 onto that very dark bit of track surface, and Verhagen being caught out, and also the Mercedes coming through. So that part is still actually much damper than the lighter grey as you come into turn 1. So drivers, be aware that you put a load into the car. It's not a very long section of repaving, because as you come to the apex of turn 3, it goes back to the old tarmac. So that was an area we clocked a lot of drivers getting into trouble on Saturday, and you had it in front of your very eyes. Verhagen getting the Porsche sideways, and it was just a long looping slide, but obviously that's his first flying lap.
Yeah, well, the Dutch race
has been binned, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, he'll be kicking himself, because what he didn't want was other cars coming onto the out lap while he was just starting his fly. He got past the pits, no one had come out, the track was clear, but alas, as he went to turn 2. And again, the drone shot just shows where the track is a little more damp than others. The temperature is still sitting at around 13 degrees, track temperature just nudging up to 14, so cooler than they've had it. But when you got clear track and you're the less experienced driver, that is your moment. So Verhagen will be really rather frustrated. Hopefully he hasn't done too much damage to the tyres. He can come round and have another crack.
So the Haupt Racing 77 Mercedes, Michele Beretta behind the wheel. So I wonder who will be the first car to actually record a time, because it should have been the Porsche, but it maybe is going to be the 77 Mercedes. So we'll get a benchmark time, purple sector, first sector. That's because he's the first car through on a flying lap. But there are just catching a number. There's again resurfaced here coming up into the final turns. So this resurfacing seems to be holding moisture a little more than the light grey, which is the older track surface.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. And the good news for Michele Beretta, so that he puts the first flying lap on the board right now, but he doesn't have too many cars in front of him, so they're now starting to come out of the pits. He should be able to have fairly clear track to have a second stab at it, but the time on the board is 1 minute 59.153 seconds. 3.5 seconds down on the quickest pace we saw on Friday afternoon practice, but quite frequently driver 1 is not the quickest driver in the driver lineups.
Well, it's maybe that, but I think it is just, while the track is essentially dry, but these darker track surfaces are definitely holding a little more moisture than the light grey, and that is probably where 2 to 3 seconds could be easily lost. So Corton goes second quickest with a 1:59.833, and as you say, Bruce, that's about 3 seconds away from the times we were saying on Friday. In fact, I think we're getting into the 55s at one point on Friday. So the Herbert Motorsport Porsche up the hill into turn 11.
And this is Ralph Bone, who knows his circuit very, very well indeed. Done a lot of the long-distance races here, and Herbert Motorsport really know how to set up a Porsche 911. They seem to have been running them for a decade and more, but a lot of their racing here, so they'll be used to racing on cool, greasy tracks. But I'd just be so interested to find out how this is going to develop through this first qualifying session when the driver 2 gets in for their 15 minutes, and likewise driver 3. The sun is bright, but it's still a cold morning here.
Yes, so what we need is actually the ambient temperature to come up pretty quickly. The sun is out, but it's one of those gin clear, sharp mornings. Beautiful morning, but just the ambient and track temperature is still on the low side to hopefully see track conditions improve. Certainly they're not going to improve greatly in this first 15-minute qualifying session. We've still only had 5 cars record a flying lap. One of the Rover Racing BMWs makes its way out. Even that, when it went onto that dark tarmac on acceleration, just got a little kick at the back of the car.
Yeah, with the field as packed as 50 cars, you know that you've got to just choose your moment to go out on the track. Now, Roman Carton's starting to pick up the pace. Michele Beretta's still fastest, but when the big guns come out to play, they can't all wait to the very, very end, because then track's just going to be simply too busy. You run the risk of the track being faster, but you more likely being tripped up and interrupted. So it is a gamble.
Yes, I mean, teams are going to roll the dice on this, and I think what's going to happen is they put on a set of new rubber, and you're told to get a clear lap at the earliest opportunity and nail it. So we're going to see, I think, a new provisional pole or provisional quickest time, currently third for Carton, and comes across the line, goes quickest on a 1:58.172, and that's quickest by just a quarter of a second.
Yeah, and glad to report that Michael Verhagen did have a second flying lap after his spin. He was going to be the first driver to set a time, but just between turns 1 and 2, it looped around. He's sitting at the moment in 6th place overall. Needs to get below 2 minutes, though. I think that's the mark of respect.
So Benjamin Goethe in the Garage 59, 1:59, and he had a momentary purple sector, but you could just see from the camera shots the speed the car's carrying coming into corners. So there's a little bit, improvement even in the 8-10 minutes we've been running this session, and just having to be careful to thread his way through the chicane, and of course the curbs as well, they're going to be damper than the racetrack itself, so you don't want to catch a curb with the car sliding at an awkward angle. Executes a good exit out of turn 17, comes across start finish line now, good enough to go provisionally quickest on a 1:57.4. Good lap from Benjamin Goethe.
Neat and tidy. Now we've got we're over halfway through this session, and all is getting very crowded out on the track. There's the Boutsen VDS Mercedes. That was a car that was very, very quick indeed, fastest of all on Friday. But now it's so easy to get interrupted, and again a massive twitch there, a readjustment. Did he clip the curb on the inside of the apex of the hairpin there?
So Cesar Gazzo goes quickest he had. In fact, he was compromised coming into that last sequence of corners, so it still does enough. A 1:57.0. So he's gained almost 0.4 of a second over the McLaren Benjamin Goethe.
Okay, now we're riding with Eddie Cheever in the Sky Tempesta Ferrari. What a beautiful morning, but he'd rather that Audi in front of him wasn't there. Actually, it's not particularly holding him up, but again, it's just a visual. Through turn 13, that's the very fast right-hand kink down below the paddock and up the hill to the chicane. John, it's such a tight little sequence here.
Yes, I mean, literally it is threading the eye of a needle. You can run the curbs on the entry and exit, but it's the exit curb on the left is the curb you're really going to be careful of, because if you climb over that, and we've seen previous events, that can just toss the car into a spin or cause it to lose significant amount of time.
Okay, it's Ferrari at the front. It's Eddie Cheever's gone to the top for Sky Tempesta Racing, but Nicky Tim is ripping it up in the 007 Aston Martin. Oh, he's actually just working maybe for a future lap, or maybe just keen to get a bit more heat into the Pirelli rubber. Up into the chicane he goes. It's car 99 that's top, Christopher Haase, Sky Tempesta Racing. Nicky Tim is improving around this lap, as you'd expect, setting his best sectors. Then it's his first line lap. Of course he's improving. We've got an Aston Martin at the moment in 4th place, which is car number 35, Maxime Robin, but Nicky Tim only good for 12th. But I think the next lap will be the fastest one. The fact he was working the tyres there suggested it's a two flying lap run from him.
Gustav Halfers, middle sector fastest overall, but Vaniela is in the Ferrari 71. Has gone fastest in sector 1, so literally we're now saying, if you like, the quick cars getting down to the job of doing them, well, they know they are capable of doing. So Farfus will come across the line. I suspect he will go quickest. Yes, he does, 1:55.1. So another lump of time to the advantage. But right now it's BMW,
Both at 1 minute 55.1,
yes.
both faster than any of the laps we've had so far in any of the sessions. Admittedly, some have been run in fog, some have been run in the rain, but that's impressive. Now it's going to be very quick for us. So right now, here we are with 2 McLarens and the 163 Lamborghini from Grasser Racing Team filling the top 3 positions. But of course, it changes while I'm speaking. The number 48 Mercedes with Lugi Auer has slotted itself into 3rd place for now.
I mean, it's all a bit frenetic right now because there is the bulk of the field are on the track. Nigel Gavin in the Porsche and quickest in Sector 1 by, well, just under 0.2 of a second, coming up to conclude Sector 2 once he goes through turn 13. And I mean, these sessions like this where you had a track that was slightly damp initially, but picking up time literally almost at every corner. So can the Porsche put itself on provision? Currently it's showing as being 15th, for what that's worth.
Yeah, but he hasn't completed his lap, so Ayhan Şengüven's looking pretty tidy. Now, it's a really unusual lap here. Normally you have things divided by 3, but it's good enough to go top. So Porsche to top, Ayhan Şengüven by 0.112 of a second. And an Audi from 99, Christopher Haase into 2nd place, pushing the 998 BMW, that's Rover Racing, and the 98, also Rover Racing BMW, to 3rd and 4th. Who's going to strike next? Alessia Rivera looking for glory in the 51A, of course, right. It's the yellow and red one coming down to the bottom of the screen, just about to kiss its graphic there.
So Farfus 3rd, just to confirm, the Porsche sets its time on 54.9. That is the single fastest lap we've seen throughout the weekend. So track conditions are much better than they were. Well, we've got 13 minutes ago when this session got underway. Frank Pereira in the Lamborghini 163, that's the Iron Lynx team. So he's got fastest Sector 1, personal best Sector 2. He will be up there challenging the BMW, which is 2nd, and the Porsche, which is 1st. So Frank Pereira goes 2nd for Lamborghini.
Well, it just took it off Augusto Farfus, who just improved. So we've got 2 drivers, 2 cars. Ayhan Şengüven, the number 22 Porsche, fastest under 1 minute 55, and likewise 163 from Pereira doing another good job. Julian Andlauer, a Porsche driver in a great deal of demand all around the globe. Looks like he's going to be setting a good time. By the way, Nicky Thiem, his 2nd flying lap was good for 5th. That's knocked him back to 6th right now. And Julian Andlauer goes to top. These Porsches do seem to like the conditions.
I think it might be to do with the location of the motor in the Porsche. It's hanging sort of over the rear wheels, not as much as it used to do in earlier sort of iterations of the car, but that's indication that Porsche are able to get very good traction, and that's giving them the drive. As we look at Christopher Haase, who is currently in 5th position in his Audi, but he's going to maybe lose fractions of seconds, and that's what the difference is between 5th and 1st. Just running behind the car, so checkered flag will be coming out in just 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Just looking for any late improvements. So Christopher Haase goes up into 2nd place. He's got under the 1 minute 55 mark. So if you're serious in qualifying, you've got to be faster at 1 minute 55. Can Alessia Rivera do that for the number 51A, of course, Francosson motor Ferrari 2963. And you can just see there when he went over the curbing, a little bit of a puff of moisture because it rained until about midnight, but it is burning off. New car at the top is Julian Andlauer in his Porsche 99 Audi in 2nd place for Christopher Haase. Ayhan Şengüven 3rd. And there is not a concerned face, but an interested face. Alessandro Pierguidi looking on. How's his car doing? It's 5th at the moment.
So, as the field, the number 12 Aston Martin. So it's currently 25th overall. So that is.
No, it's the top. He's.
Booth.
We've had a number of spinners in this session. The first one we saw was Lion Speed, but the next car that went around at the same corner, actually at the first corner, was number 84. So it is marginal, and the very best drivers keep these cars on their tiptoes. And
wow. Talk about a spin.
Not so much on the tiptoes. Why?
That's coming up through the Schumacher S's, and that's a quick part of the racetrack. And to lose your car there and not end up in the barriers on the outside of the corner is the biggest result probably this session.
Yeah,
but that was a pretty violent spin. Another Mercedes, and that's damage to the left front of the car. So that one of the Windward Racing Mercedes, it's got that left, you can see the damage to the bodywork, smoke coming off, the tires.
Yeah, it is the Windward car. It's Tanat Satyan Tirikul, and he's given that a clout. And bear in mind, the next 2 sessions follow very quickly after this. This is probably going to have the stone last. So
I mean, that car ain't
checkered flag is
that's
out.
not going out qualifying 2 or 3.
Exactly so. So that's a real setback, and that means you talked about every position you can gain is worth something for the race, but that will be starting 50th and stone last, one presumes, because it won't be able to set times in session 2 and 3. So the checkered flag is out. Still drivers completing their flying lap. And at the moment it's 1 minute 54.634 seconds. Julian Andlauer at the top of the table. Will it be beaten? Rutronic Porsche sitting ahead of Sky Tempesta Racing Audi and everyone else filing in. They've taken the checkered flag. Let's just wait and see if anybody else has got a lap to complete.
9:07.
No. An impassive Dries van Thor sitting there just patiently absorbing. Look at the concentration. All the information on the timing and scoring, and that's also the team's sort of race centre, if you wish, in the garage. There's a lot of information that the team will use, and Dries van Thor absorbing all that. I mean, trying to learn to see where did the 32 BMW.
Well, it ended up in 12th,
well, yeah.
But it's behind two other bits. The Rover BMWs have been better all weekend, and I was interested there that Team WRT kept their BMWs back while a lot of cars were being held in the pits and went out really quite late. Still got a couple more cars coming to complete their laps, but I don't see anybody with times that are likely to topple Julian Andlauer's for Rutronic.
Well, the sister car, the 46, Raffaele Marcello, his best position was 22nd. I mean, we're not used to seeing Raffaele Marcello qualifying outside of #1 position, quickest overall. And there he is, and that's a lot of work now for Maxime Martin and Valentino Rossi to get their heads around to try and drag the number 46 BMW up to where I would assume it would have been. That's near the front of the field.
Well, super critical. The top second, by the way, goes all the way down to just before 17th place. Jim Pla's the first driver more than a second away from the ultimate pace in his Audi for Sansalot Racing. But so far, so good for Rutronic Racing. But the other two drivers in that car, Sven Muller and Patrick Niederhauser, are going to have to produce a performance of similar caliber as all those times get aggregated.
A number of cars have had their best lap cancelled because of track limit abuses, some at turn 6, but mostly again it's at the exit of turn 4. So car 77 and car 80 have had their times cancelled because of track limits, one at turn 4, one at turn 6. And I mean, at turn 6, I don't really know why, because you can only go so far before you. But anyway, that's a track limit abuse, and the best lap has been cancelled, so that's a setback for those teams.
Yeah, and to explain, turn 4 is when you come out of that first corner complex where you do the sharp right and the long loop through turns 2 and 3. But the temptation is to run wide on the exit, but you get pinged. So Julian Andlauer has put the fastest time on the board, 1 minute 54.634, by far the fastest time of the weekend. He's over a 10th second clear. That's quite a big margin in this championship from Christopher Haase in the Sky Tempesta Racing Audi. In third place, Ayhancan Guven looked very good early on in his Porsche number 22. That's the top three. Going down through the classes, the top runner in the gold class is Adam Smalley in his McLaren. He's in 15th position overall. Sorry, that's the bronze class. Jim Pla running in the gold class is 17th in his Audi, and fastest of the silvers is Cesar Gazzo, car number 20, in 20th position in his Mercedes. But so many cars out to play, John, very crowded. We've still got 10 more beyond this final screen as well.
It's going to be really difficult sitting here in the commentary booth anticipating what the grid might be. But one of the cars, I always like to keep an eye on the Tracer Attempter Racing, number 99 Audi, Christopher Haase, Alex Aka, Ricardo Feller. That was the car that was second quickest in qualifying 1, and just keeps Audi, the brand, at the fore.
Well, Julian Andlauer set the fastest time. We've set the record. We've caught up with him. Let's hear his thoughts.
Yes, good morning, and what a beautiful morning it is to be on P1 for Q1.
Yes, it is. I mean, after the last 2-3 days we had fully on the rain, we were not so sure about the car balance on the drive, but I mean, the team did an amazing job having a very solid car, and it was a bit tricky to have a clear lap, but at the end we made it, and a couple of corners were still tricky with some damp parts, but really happy to be there, especially after the last couple of races where we've been quite struggling with the overall pace. So I think we're back in the game, so really looking forward to see what we can do on the final qualifying, and hopefully the race is going to be good.
I'm sure it will be, and the Nürburgring this morning has really showed us why it's famed as being a dynamic and challenging circuit. The conditions out there are still quite changeable. How do you think that you'll be able to adapt to it coming into this afternoon, having had a wet few days?
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite different because I think the overall track time is going to be quite higher compared to the last 2 days we had. So we need to anticipate a little bit and use all the data and information we have from the previous races to make it work the best way possible. But yeah, as I said, the most important is now qualifying because our strategy is not really overtaking cars. So if we can start more in the front, would be very helpful for us.
Well, it's a great start to the morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, pretty impressive lap from Julian Andlauer, and he pointed out that there were still a couple of little tricky dark patches, which if you got even one wheel onto, it could just make the car become unstable. But he did an excellent job, recorded the single fastest lap over the weekend, and the track is only going to improve. The sun's still shining. Ambient is creeping up by about half a degree or so. Track temperature has gone up a little bit more, up to 16.4. We started on just over 13, so it's picked up temperature, and that's what drivers will be looking for. But look at that slow-mo shot. Somewhere in that car, there's a flat 6 Porsche motor. It's almost now located where the rear seat, or the child seat, as you might loosely call it, would be located. So it's not hanging back as it used to do in the former iterations of the 911. What a lovely sight. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
Absolutely fantastic. And the drone shots have been worth their weight in gold this morning for showing us where the dry line and the slightly less dry line is. But it is drying fast. As you said, John, the track temperature has risen by 3 degrees since the cars went out at the start of session number 1. We did with thick cloud yesterday and mist. The track temperature almost always was pegged to air temperature. But today it's really going to rise much faster. So all the teams have got to do it again. Just going back, we've got 50 cars coming out to play, and the top set, 9/10 of a second covered the top 16, but it's just when you look down to Team WRT's second car, 1.3 seconds away from the pace. And then you look further down, there are other big hitters that haven't managed to hook it all together. So it's just how much of a risk were they prepared to take? How much were you prepared to go right to the edge? How much would you just keep in check? There's the question.
Well, I suspect we will see more cars coming out earlier than we did in Q1. Having said that, only one car has made it onto the track. The track is now open, another 15 minutes of qualifying 2. So the Aston Martin makes its way down. Of course, stays to the right of that line, that painted white line, that's the demarcation line. And it is forbidden, or verboten, as we would say at Nürburgring. When you leave the pit lane, you must not at any point cross that white line. And that is a serious no-no, and that'll be a real slap on the wrists for the driver behind the car that is responsible for doing so. And the Retronic Porsche sitting up again, waiting as others are doing till we get probably close to midway through. So it'll be Sven Muller behind the wheel of the 96 to continue the work. And another centrally contracted Porsche driver, another driver, great credentials in the hands of Porsche. So the number 11 Aston Martin. That's the Come To You Racing. That's Kobe Powells, John De Veld, and Joop van Utrecht.
Yeah, Joop ought to fly in that. So again, we've got the case of a handful of cars just going out early, hoping to get their run. Charles Clark's Aston Martin for Come To You Racing is still sitting there. They're right down by pit exit, which is always quite a good place to be. But just going back to your point, John, about the pit exit, of course, in racing form, you get drivers coming down very close to the pit wall a lot of the time. So it's not like their racing line is on the opposite side of the track. So that blend point is absolutely critical.
Yeah, I mean, the blend point is the demarcation to stay to the right. But of course, a driver coming down on a flying lap, racing another car, could quite easily be up against that blend line, and that's why it is imperative that the driver doesn't allow his car to drift across it before the blend line ends, which is probably about 50 meters before you go into turn 1.
There's the number 99 Tracer Attempto Racing Audi that was second fastest and has a Christopher Haas. It'll be Alex Arca Jr. next in that, and another car that's been going very well. Third fastest, right alongside. This is a car Hanschen Guven set a time 1 minute 54.9. Lauren Heinrich is going to go next, and he's a driver with a huge amount of Nürburgring experience.
Yeah, great Porsche driver to boot. Remember, he stood out. I think it was last year, Spa 24, where he did an outstanding job and was probably the quickest Porsche driver at the point in his stint of all those, and that included some of the big names. Now you can see turn 2, the track is getting drier. It's still damp on the racing line, but it is beginning to pick up a little bit of grip, I would say. Just again, offline there, that little sort of triangle of dark tarmac, that's damp. But here, track bone dry, and you can lean on, but that's the exit of turn 4 we've just seen.
Where lots of people being pinned. Now, just going into turn 5, the track is starting to drop away. It's turn 6, the next one, the sharpish right-hander, where they're running wide and getting pinged even more than turn 4.
Yeah, it's surprising. It was turn 4 was the corner most people were being caught on over Saturday's running. And I don't know why anybody would run wide on the exit. It's not what I consider to be something. It's not the natural exit of the corner, but maybe track conditions there are still on the damper side, and that's why cars have just been sweeping over the the curbing and getting done for track limit abuses.
Well, just as John de Wilde is pressing on, just seen a little message on the screen. All times up to now are deleted for car number 57. That was the Winwood Racing Mercedes. We saw Tassin Therical bring it back with front corner damage. So quite possibly whoever he clouted, it was the innocent party. Anyhow, come what may, they weren't going to get that repaired. So neither Dan Arrow or Colin Carasani will be able to set a time. They know right now they've got to get the car repaired for this afternoon's race. They'll start bone last.
What they will do, in my view, is not start just bone last, but they'll do the smart thing, and that's start in the pit lane and let the entire field, you know, once the race gets underway. So that's the safer of the two options, in my view, would be if you're going to be starting last, start from the pit lane.
So what's the fastest time we had so far? 1 minute 54.634. Track temperature's getting warmer and warmer all the time. 17.3 every time I look at the screen. It's up another 0.1 of a degree. But the quicker times are going to come at the end of this. This is Q2. What can John de Wilde put on the board? He'll move his Aston Martin to the very top because he'll be the first crew to get a combined time. Combined with Kobe Powell's, their average is now 1 minute 59.346. If this is your first time looking at the Fanatec GT series, you have 3 qualifying sessions. Your 3 drivers, their times are put together and you get the average, and that is the aggregate combination that takes you to set your definitive time.
So the Porsche comes up to conclude its lap. That's the Lion Speed Porsche. Michael Verhagen Bernard. Now it is Patrick Kolb. Then Bastien Boos will take over after. So it goes quickest because 2 purple sectors, understandably. Jules Vega now he's going to go quickest in this sector, where it will put this car in its overall scheme of things. Well, that we will see. But certainly the 77 Mercedes has been purple sector 1, sector 2, and he's going to make it a purple sector. I suspect, indeed, he does.
You're almost a clairvoyant there, John. So to the very, very top of the charts. So Michele Beretta did the first stint. He's done the second stint. That was a decent lap. 1 minute 55.09.
That's a very, very strong lap. A very strong lap indeed.
Now Michael Blanchemont brought in this weekend for the number 26 Santalot Audi crew. And he's showing this weekend with Ugo de Wilde and Alban Veruti. Can he make them proud? So big going around the outside of a 50-pence piece, a little bit of an adjustment through the final corner as turn 16 turns into 17, and he's good to go into 3rd position overall. Only 4 crews have set an aggregate across 2 drivers, one in session 1 and the next one in session 2. Still driver 3 has to come in qualifying 3. These times are going to change, but at the moment on an aggregate of 1 minute 56.5, it's number 77, the Hout Racing Team Mercedes, on the top of the pile. Now we're riding on board with Jonathan Cui back on board the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari, coming up on this dry, bright morning. This is I think your favourite corner, John.
Well, let's say it's one that could catch you out. If that makes it a favourite, yes, I'll go with that. But having to work quite hard behind the wheel, Jonathan Cui's hands flashing left to right just to keep the Ferrari in check. Runs quite wide on the exit of turn 17. Comes up across the start-finish line. Only personal best, but good enough to quickest lap so far, 156.6. 56.6 in round numbers.
But again, it just goes to show these tiny increments between one car and another. The fastest by 44 thousandths. No, make it fastest. Now second fastest now by 6 thousandths because we've got a new car at the top. It's the Lion Speed Porsche on the second flying lap for Patrick Kolb, a driver who knows this circuit very, very well indeed. It's his team as well. So that was the car that had a spin, the red and white Porsche, right at the start of qualifying 1, but it's all been gathered together, pointing it in the right way. Another chance to see the number 26, Michael Blanchemont driven Santalot Racing Audi, still waiting for the pit lane to disgorge its contents out onto the circuit, and some already out there setting their out lap, and the flying laps will follow. But the early runners have set the pace, and it's the number 80 Porsche for Lion Speed at the top of the table. Bit of traffic there, a little unfortunate for Michael Blanchemont. Didn't want to have a car right across his bows, having to dive past others, putting heat into their tyres. Well, he's going to improve his time, will improve his position, but I dare say a few tenths were shed there just by simply having drivers on their outlaps in his path.
Remains 4th quickest, but then the traffic undoubtedly. So there, one of the 2 Rotronics, this is the 97. So this is Dustin Blatter, Dennis Marshall, and Loic Hartog. So it's Dennis Marshall, not surprising. Dennis Marshall, purple sector 1, but the traffic ahead of him. I hope he's not going to lose too much of his momentum coming through the chicane. Probably just about, well, I think he's backed off. He did back off. and he has backed off big time. 2 purples, and he backs off because he felt maybe I was going to overrun those 2 cars directly ahead of him. He's going to overrun them again on this flying lap, and that's a disappointment. I thought Dennis Marshall might have been able to maintain enough of a pace to put himself momentarily quickest overall.
You did wonder. I thought they had just enough space, but maybe he was actually thinking more about his second flying lap.
911 reported to the stewards for slowing down in the last sector.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Reported to the stewards for slowing down in the last sector. Was he considered to have delayed those behind? Now, let's focus on the car that won the Spa 24 Hours, and Matthias Drudy is at the wheel of the 007 Aston Martin, and his first sector was good, his second sector was even better. At the moment, we've got the Boots and VDS number 10 Mercedes at the top of the time charts with an aggregate of 156.014 second, and it's been beaten. Suddenly, the 188 McLaren goes top, and then immediately toppled by more than a second, because that was a fantastic lap from Matthias Drudy. Their aggregate now 1 minute 54.272 seconds. That is a really, really good target to aim for.
Yeah, I mean, the single flying lap, 153.3 by a country mile, the quickest car. So 2 Porsche, Lauren Heinrich, and the 22. So just trying to not trip over one another. Heinrich getting on the light flasher. Will he bail? I think he maybe has done so. Yes, he got to that critical position coming to the chicane. He couldn't maintain the pace. Now, unfortunately for the following Aston, one of the Valkenhorst entries, that got slightly hindered by Heinrich backing off. So he's reset. So he gets 7th quickest time. But undoubtedly that last sector time, if he hadn't bailed, would have maybe put him into a position to challenge Matteo Drudy, who's got still
half a second on aggregate. Number 71 Ferrari has gone into second place. Great lap from Vincent Abril, 1 minute 54.1. That is quick. The second of those works Ferraris. The AF Corsa cars is 7th overall. Davide Rigon at the wheel, but at the moment it's the Aston Martin number 7 at the top. Where are the challenges? Where's the Rutronic car going to place itself into the lead overall? By the tiniest of margins, by 0.043 of a second on aggregate. That's across the flying laps of qualifying 1 and qualifying 2. So it's Porsche from Aston Martin number 7. BMW, the second of those 2 Rover Racing BMWs, goes into 3rd place ahead of the 71 Ferrari.
Who's the driver in the BMW? I'd like to always name check him.
Would it be Dan Harper?
It is Dan Harper, indeed.
Well, he's only good for 3rd place, 4th place now, because the 163 Lamborghini with Marco Mappelli has slotted into 3rd. We've got Porsche, Aston Martin, Lamborghini, BMW and Mercedes and Ferrari. 6 makes in the top 6 positions.
That's an Abril behind the wheel of the 71, of course, Ferrari. But look at Heinrich's time in that first sector. He's regrouped, gone again. So yet again we're seeing from Porsche throughout qualifying 1, qualifying 2, they're managing these conditions arguably better than any other manufacturer. And Lauren Heinrich has done the job. He's got a 1/4 of a second advantage in sector 1, but Vincent Abril, if he gets 3 personal bests, he might even get a purple in this final sector in the 71 Ferrari. Wait and see. That might elevate the Ferrari to the head of the field.
But look at the pace at Lauren Heinrich. He goes up to 4th place. It's chopping and it's changing. It's still the Rutronic Porsche number 96 at the top of the table. But Lauren Heinrich, traffic isn't necessary. His friend is right under the rear wing of the dynamic Porsche.
This is deja vu. This is exactly what Heinrich was confronted with just 1 lap ago. And unfortunately, it compromises again his exit. He only goes 3rd quickest. So Maxime Martin, no, Valentino Rossi behind the wheel. We thought we were getting Maxime Martin, but it's Valentino Rossi. So personal best.
So he's in 15th position, should improve on that. He's just over a second out of the ultimate pace.
I wonder is it Rossi or not, because we've got it on our timing and scoring, it should be Maxime Martin, but we're seeing on screen it is Valentino Rossi behind the wheel.
So the number 91 Porsche looking to get in the mix. That's the Herbert Motorsport car, but it's down in 13th position at the moment. Maurice Schuring, the young Dutch driver, that his middle sector has been a disaster there, so he's obviously backed it off, not going for it. It's still the Rutronic Porsche 96 at the top. What have we got left? 2 minutes 25 seconds. Still drivers having times removed for exceeding track limits. It's quick fire. One thing I want to notice, Team WRT have suddenly started to get the move on 13th and 16th now. A short while ago, the number 32 car, one of the frequent front runners, is outside the top 30.
Joko Neerpasch, a legend of German motorsport with both BMW and Ford and Mercedes. And I saw him at Spa and I said, Jochen, how are you? And he looked at me like, hold on, let me put the program back. Oh, and who's gone off? That one of the, that I can't quite see. It's got a bit of silver and yellow, and might have been a Boots and VDS, but
So
I wouldn't want to commit to that. Not up at the S's.
We've been told it could be car number 35, which
That's
makes it the Walkenhorst Aston Martin.
Yeah, and that's coming up through the Schumacher S's, which we know if you get offline on a damp part of the track can be extremely tricky. So we're waiting to see.
That's Lorcan Hannafin, according to the driver ticker. So will that interrupt anybody's late flying laps in this session? There'll be yellow flag there. And talk about blocking across the nose. That's right across the nose. So that was Lauren Heinrich.
So David
Rigon, beg your pardon.
And he'll be disappointed with that. I just wonder whether it'll be a full course yellow or whether it might even be a red flag, because for the car it's well off, if you wish, the actual line of the circuit. But if another car happened to go off on the same part of the racetrack.
Red flag, red flag.
There we are, it is a red flag.
Okay, there will be winners and losers in that one. Certainly the number 35, Lorcan Hannafin driven Aston Martin, lost out by going off the circuit. But anybody who stacked their qualifying session to have their flying laps right at the end, they would have come unstuck there.
I mean, there's no point in speculating as to why he went off that part of track, but undoubtedly there will be some footage. There is the Aston Martin. It's
Session will not resume.
Oh, session will not resume.
No,
wow.
Well, we only had 56 seconds remaining on the clock.
In fairness, you can't do a lap in 56 seconds. Look at that. Look at the tar marks. And I don't know. I can't see where on the tarmac that accident, that incident began, but just the car appeared to just go straight and it caught the tar walls. So Lorcan Hannafin is out of the car and shaking his head and walking around, having a brief examination around the front of the car. Let's look and see. Yeah, just goes straight.
Well, that is a very, very odd one, and the tyres did their job. That is an extraordinary incident there, and good to see the driver out of the car.
It would make me think maybe something on the right front didn't do its job, because it didn't appear to really turn into the corner, and at once it was offline, and then it was only a short run in. But the tyre bales absolutely did the job they're there to do, and let's hope that any damage to the Aston Martin is nothing more than superficial.
Yeah, absolutely so. So that was an unusual one, but what we have is the 96 Rutronic Porsche was, again, looking at the replay, well, I really can't, I did study physics at school, but that one doesn't seem to fit within that remit.
No, it's a strange one to understand. Maybe we'll get an opportunity a little later to speak to the team and see if there was a technical problem or whether that was something beyond the control of the driver, which certainly looked from the images that we have seen so far to be the case.
So just going back at the end of first qualifying. Oh, now let's listen to radio from this car, the 998 BMW.
Car balance was good on the first lap. It's definitely the first lap that you need to do the time. If anything, a little fleet on the front right, but everything else I would keep the same.
So Dan Harper, I mean, the radio makes his voice sound a little bit squeaky, squawky. But the message is pretty clear that maybe a little bit of adjustment on the front right, but otherwise the fundamental balance is pretty good. So Max Hesse will get in behind the wheel to complete qualifying 3. He knows he's getting into a car which is probably not dissimilar to the car that he would have been in, certainly when the track was dry on Friday, and mixed conditions throughout Saturday. Some parts of Saturday, it was sort of semi-dry, then it just got wetter and wetter, and then it dried and wetter, and just continued all through the day.
Okay, well, what they've got to find, the third driver in that car, as you say, will be Max Hesse. Fantastic around here. They're 6th on aggregate at the moment. They've got to find 0.365 of a second. That is actually really quite a lot. It could be a front row position coming their way, but it's a real advantage that Rutronic have. And the number 7, Aston Martin, Matthias Drudy, with that fantastic lap, 1 minute 53.3 seconds. That put it into second place. They're clear. Then there's 0.2 of a second back. Actually no, just a whisker behind them. Sorry, is Lauren Heinrich in the second of the Porsches. There we have. Okay, we've got the Porsche. We've got. Oh, well, time must have been taken away because we've got the Aston Martin now at the top. The number 7 car has been. So, there was that problem with 96 slowing, was there not? Of course, just before the final corner. So maybe a penalty. We'll look for that in a second. But Nicky Team, Matthias Drudy have set their times on aggregate combined. They put them top by 0.164 of a second from the number 71. Ferrari driven very well by Vincent Abril. Then Lauren Heinrich also flying around in that second session, put his Porsche up into third position overall, and quietly making progress is the number 2 Get Speed Mercedes. Jules Gounon combined with Lucas Stoltz to be 4th on aggregate, just ahead of Julian Andlau and Sven Muller's best in their Porsche. That's the 96 Rutronic car. That was the car that we thought was top, but I'm going to see in the interval where the punishment came, because they must have had that lap removed that had put them to the very top of the table. And still there's some big names, even when you're going down to the middle of the order, to the 99 car from Audi that normally is the very front end of the grid, was down in about 30th position. 49 crews have set times, and just, well, the driver who was quickest of all, just mentioned his name, he's Matteo Trudi, and Antonio has caught up with him at the number 7.
Matteo, what an incredible lap. Where did you find that pace?
I don't really know, actually. No, I think we have been really good on the track position. I think I had really clean lap. Both laps I did. We waited enough, and yeah, the car was made. I just drove like normal, like we did the past 2 days. And when I crossed the line and I saw the lap time, I was surprised as well. But yeah, I mean, car is really good pace on this track. I think we are pretty good on tire consumption as well. So I'm really looking forward for the race.
It seems like you're in a really great position. Now, with the track, it seems that it's ramping up towards the end of each session as it gets warmer and drier. Do you think that this session is where we'll see the fastest lap times?
Normally Q3 should be the fastest one. I mean, fuel is going down as well. Track is getting grippier and grippier. So there are, of course, many quick drivers and quick cars. So I think, yeah, it was a good lap, the one I did, but they will be faster now.
I'm sure they'll be just as good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he's talking about the track ramping up. Part of the reason for that is with the rain that's fallen over Saturday and over last night, the racing line, as it's called, that's where the tire rubber goes down onto the tarmac. That gets washed away, and then cars are going to re-establish that racing line and put more rubber down. So there's plenty of other support events here to contribute to that. But tire management, again, Rudy was referring to that. The Aston Martin, he's comfortable with how the tire life and performance on the Aston is sustaining. So that's very important, because you can have a quick car on a single flying lap, but if it's working the tire too hard, then you'll drop further back. So it's finding that happy medium between performance and longevity of your tire.
Yeah, remember the bigger picture, and that quite clearly is the message. A lot of people with that red flag, having come out and stopped the session a little bit early, will have been caught out, but certainly the gold standard does appear to be being set. But that lap, 1 minute 53.36 seconds. What can come next? The driver who's going to want to beat that, just as a matter of pride, is teammate Marco Sorensen, who'll be the third driver in that number 7 Come To You Racing Aston Martin. They're the cars lined up just towards pit exit. 50 cars in all. Well, 49, because the number 57 Winwood Racing Mercedes is clearly being worked upon on its garage after that front left corner damage for Tanat Satin Tiracle.
Yeah, there'll be a number of drivers in qualifying 3 that are going to be interesting to keep an eye on. Jordan Pepper being one, and the 163 Lamborghini. Another will be Alessandro Pierguidi behind the wheel of the 51A, Corsa Ferrari. Maro Engel, of course, in the 48 Mercedes AMG GT3. And all the way through the field, there are driver combination. Charles Weerts in the 32 WRT BMW there, further down, currently in 17th overall. That's a bit of work that they need to do. Dennis Olsen will be in the Ford Mustang. The Mustang currently 20th of the top 20. And you can go all the way down through the field and cherry-pick names that you think, well, why are they not further up? One driver who we know is always going to be quick and entertaining, currently 32nd quickest, is Albert Costa in that 84 Audi. And that's the Easterland Racing entry with Simon Rickler and Carol Bass.
Yeah, but that's going to be a lot. And in fact, his car, if he's down in 32nd position, just under 2 seconds down an aggregate, so it's going to take a mountain to get.
But Costa, I mean,
4 or 5, exactly. But he's a racer as well as a chaser, and this is the 5th different manufacturer he's competed for in this championship, and it's various guises across the year. So you can't keep him away. Good to have him back on board.
Absolutely, because he brings something to the show. Because his style of driving is an attacking style of driving. He is a racer. There's racing drivers, and then there are racers, and Albert Costa undoubtedly falls into that second category. So just waiting to get the repairs carried out to the tire bales up at the entry into the S's. So
a delay, yes, 5 minutes while they're doing that. And again, it would be very interesting to find out what exactly happened there to poor Lorcan Hannafin. It didn't look as though he was really the innocent party, the guilty party.
Yes,
in that.
I would concur on that from what we've seen.
So calm before the storm again. This is the third of the 15-minute qualifying sessions. All the times get averaged out. They add them up, they divide them by 3, they get the fastest combination, they get the average across those. And the average to beat at the moment is 1 minute 54.229 seconds. So
Just
again,
a quick glimpse into the 46 cockpit. Valentino Rossi sitting back having a little bit of liquid refreshment just to make sure that all those liquids that he would have, and there's probably a mixture of minerals and whatever you put into your driver drinks just to keep all your salts and potassium and all those levels that when you're behind the wheel and you're sweating basically, so you're losing all those minerals. So just keeping all that topped up. There's the sister car, Charles Fates behind the wheel of the 32 WRT Audi. So it's so far the best BMW is the 998, the Rover Racing entry, which you might loosely call the junior driver team, Augusta Farfus, Dan Harper and Max Hesse.
yeah, because Dan and Max raced for, this would have been 2-3 years with Neil Verhagen, but the American racer Verhagen is now competing back in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, and so the old hand, but very, very talented hand of Augusto Farfus has joined them. And again, when you see them out of the car, they've got great chemistry as well. They seem to really get on as a team.
Yeah, so they're sort of, you might call them youngsters. I mean, they are young. Someone, Augusto Farfus, who's the teammate of Hesse and Harper, is almost old enough to be their dad.
Almost. Fantastic.
Almost.
Fantastic overhead shots there. Great to see the liveries. Often you see the cars side on, front on, but the overhead shot down towards pit exit, beautiful on a sunny day. Great to see the crowds thronging in. They were coming through the gate at 7 o'clock this morning. Nothing if not keen. Yesterday they were here in their many large numbers, braving it out in the rain, some using umbrellas, some just trying to see in the fog. But today we knew the forecast was good. You can see the Nürburgring castle off in the distance. That's a good thing. That was shrouded in fog yesterday. Now we're looking at the AF Corsa Ferraris, and of course they don't just run 51 and 71 in the Pro class, they've also got 52. That is the class leader for Andrea Bertolini, Jeff and Louis Michiels in the bronze class. And in this championship we've got the Pro lineups, we've got the gold, silver and bronze. It's all a combination of drivers to make up those gradings.
When you see cars lined up in this echelon, the famous Le Mans start where the drivers would run across the racetrack, jump into their cars, and then set off on their journey. Well, obviously we don't do that today because drivers have to wear seatbelts and all the other accoutrements. But wouldn't it be fun just to do it, just as an exercise, to see that style of start, and just what would happen? I mean, don't do not a race, just do a lap, and you can make a bit of a charge down to turn 1, but then come straight back. I'd love to see how the current drivers would deal with that kind. Also, getting into these cars isn't exactly easy because you've got a massive roll cage which supports and surrounds the cockpit of these cars.
You have to say that would not favour the taller drivers. Looking at car number 3, this is a car that's the championship leader in the silver class. Anthony Bartone, James Kell and Yannick Mettler, Get Speed Mercedes. And again, just gold classes, we'll come to that shortly. John.
There was a residue of a market garden in the front of that car because they went off, or whoever the driver behind the wheel went off on Saturday, and it brought back not just a radiator full of gravel, but also newly mown grass. And I mean, there must have been nature, amongst other things, amongst that whole conglomeration. Looked lovely, but of course, a lot of work for the team.
No, it certainly was. I think it was James Kell at the wheel at the time, but I think it was an off at turn number 10, which is the exit of the Schumacher S. But they did the gardening, came back, it's all been cleaned up. Car's looking fantastic. This is the Oman Racing Team entry. BMW M4 GT3's, gaining in number with every year. It's about the 3rd year of its cycle now. Or no, it was introduced the end of 2022. Now, there is a further delay. We'll update you when we know. We're waiting for the barrier repairs or the tyre wall repairs at turn 9. But what it does do is give a chance for the air temperature to rise a little bit. But the track temperature is now north of 17 degrees. That's keeping its way up. Blue sky, but there is still a little bit of fine cloud to be burnt away, John.
Yes, I mean, as the temperature will rise, that will burn off, and we'll have anticipating a glorious day here at Nürburgring, and you're seeing it, or will see it in its absolute best. You know, contrasting that with what we had yesterday, with low-lying mist, cloud, fog, whatever you choose to call it, and rain. So there is the best of the BMs to date, the 991 Rover Racing entry. Max Hesse behind the wheel, sitting there just waiting, and well, what will be going through his mind? Will he be just having a look down at instrumentations? So Davide Riga and Alessio Rivera just having a little moment on the pit wall, waiting for their car to go out and see what they can achieve.
Yeah, but their work is done. All they can do is hope that Alessandro Pierguidi, the third driver in that lineup, that his maths is good. In fact, the tracks are just coming off the pit wall. There we are, delayed until further notice. There's confirmation, still being repaired. And in fact, what's very good here, I've noticed this weekend, when they get an opportunity, when there's a stoppage, while repairs are going on, there's a track sweeper that goes around. And particularly the exit of the final corner, turn 17, drivers do hook the wheel over the curb and bring some gravel on. So very importantly, that's being swept away.
Yeah, I mean, they're very efficient here at Nürburgring, and when we've got a downtime at the minute, so put these tractor units back out onto the track, and because we've got gravel at where the track limit margin is, just beyond that is gravel. So a driver drops a wheel over that margin, it's into gravel, and then that gets kicked onto the circuit. So get the circuit cleaned up. It's in everybody's interest, and it's a part of the efficiency of the running of this circuit.
And again, that view looking down at the first corner, bending back to turn 2, those different types of tarmac, not such an issue today as it warms up, but yesterday it certainly was in the mist and the rain. So they've not only got to repair the tyre wall in front of literally the end of the tyre wall there, but it's also removed that Aston Martin that was planted there by Lorcan.
Yeah, it's taken quite a time to get the car removed. You can see there's another vehicle on the racetrack, so the car's going to be dragged out of the tyre wall across the gravel, then it'll be lifted up onto the back of a flatbed truck, and then the work can begin at reassembling the tyre wall. So this is a sort of work in progress, and everybody in the pit lane sitting around, standing around, okay, what's happening, looking skyward, is there any change in the weather? A bit more cloud sort of drifting in.
There is, but it's when you've got your head around going into these qualifying sessions, 3 15-minute sessions with 7 or 8 minutes between them. It's quick fire, it's bang, 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 and suddenly they've been given reprieve, time to discuss, but they were already working to a program. For the drivers who are on board here, they wouldn't have known necessarily there was going to be a delay, so they got strapped in as soon as they could, ready to sit there and be given the signal, John, when to go out, but now they've had a bit of time.
Yeah, but you know what, Bruce? I used to love getting into the car, and if there was a delay, I would just sit in the car because it was the most comfortable place to be, and frequently it was actually on a morning as we have today with the ambient temperature still on the lower side. It's lovely and cozy in there, and your Nomex underwear it just makes you feel really snug. Why would you want to get out and get a chill?
And look, I noticed that most of the drivers are left on their own. You'd have thought their teammates would have already who've done Q1 and Q2 would chat with them. They've already presumably had that little conversation, and now drivers left. That's Michael Grenier, another driver on the Mercedes books. He's in the 777 Mercedes. That's down in 22nd position, so that's got quite an ask, but he's the quickest driver in that combination. He should be able to move it up a row or two, perhaps, in this third qualifying session when we get underway. Yeah,
gold entry, and who are the quickest? Well, it's actually the Audi, and Gilles Magnus will be behind the wheel of that Audi, and that's a car, again, Magnus was really, really on it throughout Saturday.
He was, and they're sitting, so the top 2 cars in the gold class, we've just seen the 777, but the number 25 Santalok Audi is top in that class. Just one position further up the overall field at the moment. They sit 21st and 22nd. We have 50 cars in the group. Here's the Lion Speed GP Porsche. Patrick Kolb's had his go, and Michael Verhagen kicked it off was the first spinner of the day. But it's Bastian Boos. He should propel it up the order because he is very, very handy in a Porsche.
So again, you can see, I was talking about how the internal structure, well, look, there's a lot of damage to the right front. Oh, you can see that more damage to the right front than we maybe anticipated initially.
Well, had to be removed, is being removed, so that's good news. But let's take a little hot lap. This is with the driver who's fastest so far. It's a hot lap, the 7 Aston Martin, Matthias Trudy.
And on this lap, on reflection, he didn't realise what a quick lap it was. But it just was one of those laps where he got everything. He hit all the marks coming to turn 1. Takes the traditional racing line as opposed to the wider one we were seeing a lot of on Saturday, then cuts back quickly to get into turn 2. Here, early in Q1, this was really slippery, drivers getting caught out. then comes back a little bit earlier than some to make the apex for turn 3, stays tight to the left, then now cuts back quickly to the right and gets on the throttle and doesn't run wide and therefore get a time deleted. So the run up to turn 5 and gets down a gear and nose in, stays in the middle of the track again to line up for the turn into turn 6. Again, watch on the exit of turn 6, people who are getting pinged here for track limit of uses, then the run down the hill, sort of the gentle curve of turn 7 down, then get on the brakes, again watch for the entry. So he's making the slightly more peaky high point, then cut back down again for the drive off turn 8, then up the hill, and this is the scene of the incident with the 35 Aston Martin. It went off there, straight into that tower bale, but Matteo Drudi has no problems whatsoever, carries good speed through and out on the exit. Then the climb up into turn 11. Again, good grip, good bite, good balance from the Aston Martin. And it's all working in favour of Matteo Drudi. So he thought he maybe would do a 154 point something, but he got into the 153s, and that was just, wow, where did that come from? He doesn't know himself where it came from, but it was a combination of low ambient temperature, good dense air, and just a good clean lap by the driver.
Yeah, I think half a dozen drivers got into the 1 minute 53s. This lap was a 1 minute 53.36, so deep into the 1 minute 53s. And Marcus Sorensen waiting to take over for Q3. We're thinking, can I go better than that? You know, that intra-team bragging right, but clean lap, and also traffic was very kind to him as well there. He was in a clear patch. He probably worked that patch.
He got all the aces at the same time, each of the 3 sectors, no problems whatsoever. So estimated time is 9:55, which is probably about a further 15 minutes. So we've lost the best part of 30 minutes or so as a consequence of having to remove the 35 Aston from the tower bales, and then they've now got to reassemble all that and check behind there. Well, there's the car now returning, and it was only when the car was actually extracted from the tower bales you could see there's a more front-end damage on the right side than I had anticipated. So a lot of work now for the Come To You racing team to get that car turned around. It's a 3 o'clock start, so they've got the best part of, well, let's say 4 hours, because then the procedures of going to the grid, pit lane opening, going to the grid. So let's say 4 hours for the team to get that car, all the bits taken off. Just, first of all, investigate what was the problem, why did the car go off, and then reassure the drivers and the team that that's a one-off, that they don't need to check all other of the 3 other Come To You racing cars in the event of having a similar issue.
Yeah, it's going to be very busy down there, but bear in mind they couldn't really start on the tyre repairs until they did manage to extract that Walkenhorst Aston Martin, pull it back and then get it on the flat bag. I think at the back of the gravel trap, the gravel is very deep. That also hampers the rescue vehicle.
Yeah, just a point. It was the Walkenhorst Aston, not the Come To You. So Walkenhorst engineers will get behind that car, get it up on the actual stands and start stripping off the bodywork and then look beyond that.
One of the crowd favourites, always since he launched the Mad Panda team, is Ezekiel Perez Compact's team. There is Ezekiel himself, the Argentina racer. He's running in the silver class, and it's actually very tidy in the silver class because he's 5th in the class in 28th position, and the top car in class, it goes 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. So all the silver class runners, bar 3, are right next to each other. So their order's going to change, and he's raced here enough to know this circuit very well indeed. Now, the high shot, again, showing a beautiful summer's morning. We haven't really been treated this sort of weather since Friday afternoon. Yesterday was not particularly pleasant, but it did provide fantastic racing in the wet for the other races on this agenda, but it's going to be a dry day here today. But we've got still this 1 15-minute qualifying session to complete the trio, and then we'll get the winning average, and then, only then, will we know the pole qualifying. But let's go down to the pit lane. And the driver who was really quick in the first qualifying session for the 22 Porsche team from Schumacher CLRT was Anchan Guven.
Anchan, you're looking very speedy this weekend. You set some really impressive times in Q1.
Yeah, the Q1 was tricky conditions. Track was still wet from the night, and yeah, we need to find different lines. And now it's fully dry, so lap times get quicker, and at the end it's average. So also Lauren did mega job, and we are standing in P3 at the moment in average. And yeah, now Bocco in the car. Also we think he will make a really good lap time, and then we can start in the front row. So this season we have quick car. Paul Ricard, we were fighting for the win, but we have pit stop issue. Spa was really early crash, so we could not show our potential. But hopefully this weekend we can show the potential.
Well, you've started off very, very well, of course. What are some of the most exciting and maybe challenging parts about racing at the Nürburgring?
Yeah, I think the Nürburgring is all about the fog and the rainy conditions, and we used it, I think, all drivers. But also it's 50 cars on this track, it's quite a lot. Qualifying is always stressful, you need to find a clean lap, you know, and everyone try to be smart. Then when you are too smart, you can end up in a wrong position. So we try to play safe with our track position. Hopefully for Bocco we can have clean lap. It's all about the clean lap, to be honest. So hopefully Bocco have clean lap and we have also a clean track in the race.
You're doing very well so far. Best of luck. Thank you.
It's interesting the way that drivers get names abbreviated. Boccolacci is Bocco. So that's the pet name, if you want to call it, within the team.
Yeah, saves on the sign writing on the car if you just have a few letters lopped off. Right, properly bright and sunny now here at the Nürburgring. Still waiting for the replay, the restart, well, the start of qualifying 3. It's been delayed by some mild barrier repairs, and waiting for that number 35 Walkenhorst Motorsport Aston Martin to be recovered from the exit of turn 9. Most unusual point to go off, but all is seemingly being repaired in good order. And now, maybe, in fact, that's the vehicle, the last vehicle off from that corner. It's brought new stacks of tyres on its flatbed, and very, very efficient here at the Nürburgring, and is now driving back to a point of safety. There are the wheel marks, John, through the gravel. Unusual point to go off. Either you'd expect to go almost straight on at that corner or lose it further round the bend. This is sort of at the midpoint.
It was just the critical point, just beyond the apex. The car just appeared to take a trajectory which was straight off. So whether that was an issue with the tyre, for example, or a mechanical issue, the car is being returned, gradually coming down the pit lane on the back of that yellow recovery unit.
Right, now the car that's sitting on average fastest is Sven Muller, and he is down with Antonia in the pits.
Sven, fastest on average at the moment. What a great way to begin your home Grand Prix.
Yes, sure. Finally, we are there where we want to be. Car really feels great. We did big improvement over the days, and now we are there where we want to be. It was quite crowded in my qualifying, so not 100% ideal, but Julian did a mega job. Now we wait because there was a little crash, but hopefully we can be on pole first time of the season.
Now, at the sprint race last weekend, Rutronic didn't seem to have the same pace. Where has it come from this weekend?
Actually, yeah, we found one thing on the car, and now we have the pace we want. Yeah, so let's see. Porsche on the Nürburgring has always been good, so the track really suits to the car. That's why you see also the car is quick here. Yeah, and then hopefully we can have a good race this weekend.
I'm sure you'll be able to. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Patrick Niederhauser will take that car over, and Patrick Niederhauser, we know, whether he's in a Porsche or an Audi or whatever it is, always somebody who is going to extract its full potential, full performance. So it looks like the track is now back to a condition that we can let the cars go back. We were advised that this session would be starting at 9:55, so that's what, another 7 or 8 minutes away. So looking inside the 46 there, that will be Valentino Rossi. He's been sitting there for, what, half an hour now? Nearly.
Yeah, well, we may get them out soon. There's a message that's just coming on screen saying session will restart on short notice. I think now that recovery vehicle is back, we may not have to wait till 9:55. And in fact, the green flag has... wake up, everyone. You could have been on the track and almost completed your outlap. But also to reiterate, we talked about number 7 being promoted to the top of the timesheets. I think that was a glitch. There was mention of a potential penalty for 96 for backing it off the Rutronic car, but that is still sitting at the top of the timing screens as fastest on aggregate so far. So qualifying 1 has been completed, qualifying 2 has been completed. Now it seems the barrier repairs have been completed and the drivers could be out on the track. And you know what? We've already expended more than a minute of this 15-minute qualifying session without a driver getting there. I think they almost got caught out. I think they were thinking it's going to happen at 9:55, and suddenly the short notice message came up, and they could be out there on the track. What does that do? It compounds this session. It's going to be even tighter. First of the cars, first the teams, again a blink now. First car just about to come down towards pit exit to go out on the circuit. It's one of the Lamborghinis and
one of the Barwell, I think.
One of the Barwell cars, yes. And then tyres are being brought out very, very rapidly from the back of garages. They were really caught on the hop. They want some tyres that, again, that gives them some grip. But quite a few of the cars, even the Come To You Racing, number 7 Aston Martin, second on aggregate, sitting there with no rubber to be seen. So that's going to be a while until that is fitted. This is going to be a real scramble, John.
It is, but just in the process, while we've been waiting for the track to go green, temperatures have gradually gone up. The track temperature is now just over 18 Celsius. Ambient is just now nearly 14.5. So we're now coming up to what time is it? Coming up to 10 to 10 at Nürburgring. So we're beginning to get the benefits of the sun's rays, both in terms of the ambient and the track temperature. There is the exit of turn 6 where many drivers have been getting caught exceeding track limits. So Sandy Mitchell, who is the stalwart of the SRO Motorsport Lamborghini lineup, he's on his out lap. And this is the Sky Tempesta, the 93 Ferrari. Comes down, and again, it'll be an exploratory lap. Of course, nobody has driven on this circuit since it was dry on Friday, so they're going back now onto a full dry, having spent the large or the bulk of Saturday on either a wet or a damp or whatever, but certainly nothing nearly as dry as we've got here now. There's the Grasser Racing team.
That's Heisem Kurjuli, and Grasser running a number of cars. The best place Lamborghini at the moment is number 163. That's the Grasser car with Frank Pereira and Marco Mappelli having done their job, and South African racer Jordan Pepper is going out. The 777 Mercedes sitting there waiting for its turn to get back out. That's Almanar Racing, and that's second in the gold class. And Michael Grenier, we saw him a short while ago sitting pensively on the car. And the noise as the Lamborghini flashes past the pit lane where crews are still putting the tyres on their car. 11.5 minutes remain. Clear track. He's got exactly what he needed.
Absolutely. For Sandy Mitchell, he's got the best situation he could have wished for. He's got to maximise it. He's got to make sure he doesn't make any little errors, because let's ride on board with Sandy Mitchell as he comes through turn 2, runs out to the very edge of the track, dry enough to run against that red and white curbing, gets the nose tucked in tightly, then swings back to the right, just on the throttle, balancing steering throttle, gets clear of turn 4, no issues on track limit abuses there. Then rush down into turn 5, down a gear, gets the nose in, just 142 clicks, then back to the left, cuts back now to the right for turn 6. Watch the exit, Sandy Mitchell, don't overrun it, gets a good exit, good drive down the hill into turn 8. And again, what sort of line will he take? The sort of the traditional one, or that's more or less the traditional one. You follow the inside of the corner, runs the curb and the exit, doesn't have any issues with power traction or whatever. Now up the hill. I mean, that's about as quick as anybody we've seen so far today. There was a little sort of just breathing the throttle slightly, but nonetheless a very good effort indeed. Up into turn 11, gets the car in, runs the curb on the inside, but that's what you do if you want to be quick at Nürburgring now. The swing back to turn 12, let the car run out the exit of the corner, watch the exit, because the curving and then the gravel will snatch flat out through turn 13, just pulls another gear. Not using old 6 gears, 5 are the most that most teams have been using. Then big jump on the brakes, down a couple of gears through this quick left, right. Then the exit again, be careful. This is a good run from Sandy Mitchell, I would say. What the time will be, hard to anticipate, but looks like it's going to be, well, purple, you'd expect. He's the first car that's done a flying lap.
Okay, they were sitting 38th. They will go to the top because, of course...
a 153.909.
Okay.
They'll take that. That's a good run from Sandy Mitchell.
Absolutely will. Track conditions are getting better and better. But just remember, they were 38th before that run, and now that with the first car to set aggregate across all three, they have their final qualifying mark, 1 minute 55.563.
Big commitment from Enrique Chavez coming off turn 12, and he got the car. I mean, it looked great, that just the attitude of the car coming through turn 12 up now to the chicane. So he's got personal best, first and second. Chris Froggatt, likewise in the Sky Tempesta Ferrari, personal best. You'd expect that because his first sector he's gone through on a flying lap.
It is going to be absolutely a traffic jam out there. Surely we're going to have 45 plus cars, one would think, going for it in the final. Well, we've under 9 minutes remain in this session. Anybody now setting a time is going to have a bit of a smile on their face. They're not going to be hampered by traffic. Enrique Chavez, now we're riding on board through the chicane. Chris Froggatt, of course, he's improving all along. Darren Lung is going very well in the 991 BMW as well.
But that time from Enrique Chavez in the Aston Martin combined puts that car at the top. This is only momentary, but it'll change throughout the remaining minutes of this 15-minute session. So let's look and see what the 991 is going to do. Max Hesse behind the wheel. There is, again, Sandy Mitchell having a second bite of the cherry, and again, he's got a purple sector in sector 1. He's got clear track for his second flying lap. I mean, he must be blessed this Sunday morning to find 2 clear laps.
Absolutely.
And he's
so
going to thrive again. Purple sector, sector 2.
And now he's coming to the very, very short final sector. It's effectively this chicane, get the car balanced up to turn 16 and 17, the 2 right-handers. At the moment, we've only got 4 crews that have set an aggregate across all 3 sessions. It's 1 pro car, which the 34 Aston Martin. And Sandy Mitchell, is he going to top that one as he goes across the line? Does not quite, but he does improve the aggregate for the team.
Yeah, 153.5. He picked up almost 0.3 of a second on his previous first flying lap.
And Walker Horse definitely getting their Aston Martins out early. One is sitting at the top of the table at the moment. This is the sister car with Ben Green on board. This is car number 36 of these multi-coloured Aston Martins. We'll see where that pops in. But the sister car number 34, shared by David Pittard, Ross Gunn and Enrique Chavez, is top at the moment. It's busy, busy, busy out there. Still waiting for the big guns to show their hand.
Ben Green, who was a race winner last weekend in Hockenheim in a Ferrari 296, just shows how versatile. And the driver market, that car isn't running here this weekend. So going back to Ezekiel Perez Compact and Mad Panda, he's on the headlights telling him, get out of my way, I want to finish my flying lap. I've got 2 personal bests and I want to, oh dear me, contact. Suddenly the first of the 2 Mercedes backed off coming into the chicane. Totally wrong-footed Ezekiel Perez Compact, and that was a very scary moment indeed, especially for the 90 Mercedes. He just saw, I don't know if that was Michael Grenier or not, but whoever was in that white Mercedes exited the chicane, backed off instantly to give himself track space, didn't appreciate it. And there's damage to the front of the Ferrari as well.
Well, that's 51. It's been noticed for unsafe relief in the pit lane. It's gone out and clattered the right-hand flank of the car. So Alessandro Pierguidi, the driver who can seemingly do no wrong across the last decade, has had a problem right at the start of when he's trying to set a time. So that is losing time on the track. Can they send him out with that damaged bodywork? Wow, this is a car that you'd expect to be at the very front end of the field, and that is a massive setback. We've just got under 6 minutes remaining. It's going to be fast and furious, and who's going to come out on the top? At the moment, it's still Walker Horse Motorsport, David Pittard, Ross Gunn and Enrique Chavez, but who's taking a tilt? Gilles Magnus has been on fantastic form in his Audi this weekend. There he is, flashing around, car number 25 in the gold class. Very, very well placed indeed. In fact, championship leader in the gold class. But for the 51 Ferrari crew, this is a disaster.
It's been pushed back. The driver, the mirror on the driver or the offside door was hanging off, and now that car's being pushed back. I don't think it's going to be permitted to go on to the racetrack. That's the impression I was getting.
And if you don't set three aggregate time 3 times to put in aggregate, that is your qualifying completely wrecked. So for AF Corsa, it's not over and out yet, but it's going to be a mountain to climb. Who else is on the move? Who's setting the times around the track? Still cars losing track times limits for their best times. Car 158, one of the McLarens had their last time taken away.
So this is the Button VDS. Mercedes, Max Goertz behind the wheel. They are now second quickest right now. If you took the grids as it stands, it's Mercedes, Maro Engel. Well, having said that, Jordan Pepper in the 163 Lamborghini has trumped them, and now Patrick Niederhauser of the Porsche has trumped the Lamborghini, and it's just mad. Every car coming across literally is almost beating the fastest previous lap by margins.
And Cream rises to the top, and at the moment it's the Retronic Porsche. It was fastest in session 1, fastest on aggregate across session 2, and now fastest after session 3. What is this Marco Wittmann 98 Rover Racing BMW going to do? It says he's 38th, it now moves up to 6th position, and that means he's 8 tenths, nearly 9 tenths off the aggregate of that Retronic Porsche. That is a really good mark, and at the moment the 163 Lamborghini is in second place, down by 78 thousandths of a second. So a lot of the drivers reckon the second flying lap was going to... We heard of Bocco. Here is Bocco. This is the Schumacher CLRT Porsche, and Dorian Boccolacci pushing on. He knows he's got to push on.
Maro Engel also gone fastest in Sector 1. Now, he was, about a moment ago, that car, the 48, was the quickest car on circuit. Now Maro Engel's gone another lap. He's got purple Sector 1. So the battle for pole position is going to be between Niederhauser, Pepper and Engel. Fabian Schiller in the number 2 Mercedes. Well, Boccolacci's now jumped in. He's gone, so that car, I should say, not the driver necessarily. So it's now Porsche as the provisional front row of the grid. Maro Engel coming up to complete yet another flying lap. We did have a fastest sector in Sector 1 on this lap.
Yeah, this is the bright yellow car, the Mamba livery, and just waiting for him to cross the line. Will he put the Mercedes back at the top? It's Porsche, Lamborghini, and then the two Mercedes. And the Ford Mustang, new to the competition this year, makes the most fantastic sound. Dennis Olsen pushing on. But the target time to beat is now 1 minute 53.997 seconds on aggregate. It's still the two Porsches at the top, Rutronic from Schumacher CLRT. And here is the Rutronic car coming round for another lap. Is Patrick Niederhauser going to stretch his advantage yet more?
153.323.
Yep, it moves their margin forward. They're 88 thousandths of a second clear. It gained 10 thousandths of a second, and these thousandths could be critical. What's left on the clock? 2.5 minutes.
So the Aston Martin comes across, and okay, this is going on to a flying lap. I'm assuming he didn't get a recorded lap on that last lap. What a session. I mean, that incident coming out of the chicane with the two Mercedes was momentarily very unpleasant. Matteo Caroli just in the Lamborghini being chased by the Ferrari. So he gets overall 11th.
And while this is still running out, still waiting to see if that number 51 Ferrari can get out and set a time. It's down as one of 6 cars that haven't set an aggregate treble.
And another set of sticker tyres. Jake Dennis looks on, having come away from losing his World Championship title in Formula E. He was the 23 World Champion. That's now gone to Pascal Wehrlein. Funny enough, a Porsche driver. But Riccardo Feller, keep an eye on this, the 99 Treasure Attempto Racing Audi. That's a car only 41st at the minute. 42nd, but
yeah, no good whatsoever. That was a 1 minute 59 lap.
Yeah.
Maybe he's saving all for his second flyer. Maybe he's waiting for a gap in traffic. You can't wait much longer because the session is ticking down towards the end. It's the 96 Rutronic Porsche top. Fabian Schiller starting to attack in the bright yellow Team Get Speed Mercedes, looking handy.
5th overall, so personal best in Sector 1.
And the good news is, for a lot of the drivers out there, some of the crews have now set their 2 flying laps or whatever they think they can do, and they're coming into the pit lane. I did notice the 51 Ferrari was still sitting stationary in the pit lane. Alessandro Pierguidi still have to find out what the contact was with the unsafe release, or what was being looked at as an unsafe release in the pit lane. Disaster for one of the front-running crews, the crew that could have been leading the championship had they won in Spa 24 Hours, but circumstances counted against them right at the end.
Well, I don't know what the answer is, but if you think back to the good old days when the Tim Schenken book of racing drivers' excuses was one of the most popular reads in the paddock, what will be that reason, or what caused that incident with the 51 Ferrari? Certainly make an interesting read, I think, in time.
Right, 30 seconds still on the clock. Any of these drivers crossing the line now could do one further lap, and looking to see if there's any improvement from Marco Wittmann. No, the middle sector was no good at all, so he's outside the top 10. Third best place of the BMW. Sister car is up in 8th overall, and the 32 Team WRT BMW is in the middle of the mix, just at the bottom of the top 10.
Now look at Dorian Boccolacci. Currently that car is second quickest provisional front row, but on this lap you can see the personal times. He's coming in the pits.
Checkered flag is waved, so anybody
he's not coming in the pits, but no point in staying out because the lap is so slow.
No, unusual one there. You thought he might have pulled in, but still sitting in that second place overall. Bocco, as we now call him, with Lauren Heinrich and Ayhan Shanguven. Will he remain in second place? Who can pick them off? Frank Pereira, could he manage? Well, he can't. He's out the car. It'll be Jordan Pepper. Now, certainly the 51 Ferrari is not going out. Lots of explanation going down there. On the left of the screen is Alessandro Pierguidi, presumably the driver. Well, he definitely was the driver at the time of the contact.
I wonder, was that seen as a pit lane incident that with contact occurred there? We didn't get any sightings of anything happening on track. So Valentino Rossi has yet to record a time, but he can still take the checkered flag. So well, that's a bit of a moment for the 46.
But that's what he has. That's what he has to do.
Position right now, Bruce.
Yeah, because 2 cars are not going to get any times at all in this session, and he should be able to put that in. But he's got to do that to get anywhere until you get your 3rd aggregate time on the board. He must have squeaked out just in time to start this flying lap before the checkered flag came out, and then we'll see where it moves him. He was sitting around about 20th position.
Yeah, but he did get a brand new set of sticker Pirelli tyres on his BMW, so he's got all the tools he needs to go out and consolidate a time that will put the 46 BMW into a position that would give them an opportunity certainly to score points. Maybe even, after 3 hours and 2 rounds of pit stops, you could be in the podium.
Yeah, well, it was a real gamble from Team WRT, keeping them as late as they possibly could. And don't don't forget, well, they're all happy down at Rutronic, convinced that that is good and the pole is in the bag for them. You have to presume it is, but let's see where this will slot Valentino Rossi. Team WRT's other car is in 12th place overall on aggregate, coming across the line with the last few finishers. 46 will suddenly get a time on the board and move up the charts.
24th.
24th, moves halfway up the grid. So actually that recovered it from the end. That's pretty much where they were before, but it was a gamble. Trying to get the track when it was clear of traffic. He managed to do that, but then couldn't wring the time out of it.
So cars coming into the pit lane, and there we see what's directly above us on broken sky. But having said that, looking out to, I would call it to the east, over the Schloss at Nürburgring, it looks cloud drifting. I mean, we've got a very light breeze blowing, and it's sort of the weather is coming from the northwest to sort of southeast. But we don't know what's going to happen later in the day. We were promised a fine day, but there's still a long way to go before 3 o'clock. We're just coming up now to 10:05 in the morning, so just basically a good 4 hours before the teams will be letting their cars get out onto the circuit to go onto the pits, onto the grid.
Well, at the end, John, aggregates just 88 thousandths was all it took to put one Porsche ahead of another at the front of the field. Julian Andlauer, Sven Muller, Patrick Niederhauser for Rutronic Racing, but Schumacher CLRT pushed very hard. Ahensham Guven, Lauren Heinrich, and bringing it home, Dorian Boccalacci, and then just 60 or 600ths of a second behind them in third place overall. The best of the Lamborghinis, the 163 crew from Grasser, Franck Pereira, Marco Mappelli and Jordan Pepper. The best of the Mercedes, Luca Auer, Daniel Morad and Mauro Engel in fourth overall. A whisker ahead of Lucas Stoltz, Junon Gurgunov and Fabian Schiller. And going down through the classes, the best runner in gold was Santalok Audi in 15th place. The best runner in bronze was tucked in behind, car number 97, one of the other Rutronic Porsche, so it's a good day for them. Top in silver cars was Cesar Gazzo, Ray Mohijas and Aurelion Panis for Butson VDS, but it belonged to Rutronic Racing. 2 of the 4 classes they topped, but most importantly they're fastest in the pro class, so a job very well done in a tricky session indeed. One car did not set an aggregate across all 3 sessions. That's the Winwood Racing Mercedes, but a lot of people will be having stories of ifs and buts and maybes. And you do feel for Ezekiel Purry's compact there, John, the problem for him on his final run coming out of the chicane.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a really difficult moment for Perez compact because he had to take an immediate avoiding action, and I mean, the car directly ahead of him just bailed and was unaware how close the 90 Mercedes was behind, and it could have been a major incident, but Perez compact managed to avoid hitting anything, but his session was effectively destroyed as a consequence of nothing to do with him.
And in that quick-fire final session, it was Mauro Engel, we're looking at his number 48 Mercedes, who was fastest of all, 1 minute 53.121 seconds. The track was getting better and better. He worked his way through the traffic and really delivered. So it goes to show that crew, 4th overall on aggregate, could have a very good chance coming into the race. There'll be a lot of others further down the grid going, we just didn't get it right. But the question for me is, what happened to that number 51 Ferrari? Didn't get to set a time in the end, and that's put them down in 48th position out of 50 runners. That is going to be a mountain to climb in this afternoon's 3-hour race. More will follow on that accordingly. But clearly with that bodywork damage, there was a clash with someone or something down in the pit lane. But let's go down to the pit lane, because we will go and join our pole sitters. It's the 96 Rutronic crew speaking to Antonia.
Patrick, bringing home a brilliant P1 for the team. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, of course we are super happy. We had a tough 24-hour Spa, and now to bounce back like this, yeah, we couldn't have wished for anything better.
Now, we know how important teamwork is for a quali session like this where there's combined times. Just how important was it to really play your part today?
Yeah, I mean, we maximized it. It was really intense qualifying. Also at the beginning was quite damp. Also traffic is so many cars. So for me, I got a bit stuck in traffic, but still we managed to do really good qualifying. And yeah, greetings to the bosses at home. They are not here.
No, overall it's really good. As Patrick said, I mean, we've come back from very far. We've been very struggling the whole season so far, and to bounce back here, it's very amazing. So I think we understand what was wrong before, and we just need to keep it up and hopefully do a good race.
Congratulations, all of you, winners of our Rover Pole Position Award.
So job very, very well done here. It's representative of Rover Motor Oils. And there goes the trophy. It's something that the pole sitters gather at each round. But that was a hard-fought qualifying session. Well, across the 3 sessions, John.
Absolutely. So here are some of the highlights, I think.
Well, it had a beautiful flow. And in fact, fastest after session 1, fastest after session 2, fastest after session 3. All those times combined. No wonder they came out on top. It's very unusual for someone to top all 3 of these 15-minute qualifying sessions. But hats off to the number 96 Rutronic Porsche crew. Julian Andlauer, Sven Muller, and the driver who brought it home in the end, Patrick Niederhauser.
It's amazing just how teams' fortunes can change. And the team we're talking about, they discovered something within the car that hadn't helped them at, say, Hockenheim a week ago. And now the car is topping all 50 here in qualifying. It is a difficult qualifying session, 350 minutes, and with 50 cars all trying to do the same thing, just to get those clear laps. I mean, the driver we saw who really scored on that was Sandy Mitchell. He got 2 stunning laps, never a sign of traffic directly ahead of him.
Well, that was qualifying. We're looking forward to the race. It will start at 3 o'clock this afternoon, 3 hours of fun. Do make sure that you join us then. We'll be back with you this afternoon.